Page 3. All is fair in love and parking meters. Santiago went to the other end of the bar and found an empty stool near the stuffed cowboy dummy that always stood at the bar. He sat there for the next 2 hours, alternately spinning out his bitterness to Billy, the bar-tending owner, and the dummy, who was a better listener. Billy was bald-headed and looked like Mr. McGoo of Looney Tune fame. He'd been a draft dodger who stayed at the University of New Mexico long enough to get a doctorate in nuclear physics. The government hired him to be creative in the atomic city until he got busted for smoking dope on one of the reactor test sites. Now he ran the bar and talked computer talk to anyone who could go into theoretical math. Billy only stopped at Santiago's end of the bar to replenish his beer or smoke a cigarette. Santiago said to Billy, "It's better to live 20 beautiful days than 20 fucked up years." "Yeah, sure. But remember, reality is the best fantasy," Billy said, and served a customer demanding a Heineken. Santiago was thinking of his shattered marriage and the other woman, Martina. He passed over the thought once again of how ironic it was that he had lost a wife who still loved him while he still loved a female enigma who could love nobody. He knew Martina was crazy the first time they met in a festival in the winter of 1982. Probably she was still crazy, but he had to see her again. He wondered why in the hell she mailed the unaddressed letter postmarked from Paris 2 years before, a letter with only 4 significant little words. Those 4 words had sent him on his futile search. He thought of the words again. The mountains are high. If he was going to find her, he better do it soon. The circle of his life was closing. Santiago had stopped in for a quick beer, but kept drinking the next 3 hours. There was a sign hanging on the wall. Billy's bar has no favorite drunk, we all take turns. 1 beer led to 8 beers, chased by 7 shots of tequila, accompanied with stupid laughter. He looked at his face in the beveled mirror behind the bar and saw the only graying beard and deep creases around his blue eyes. Ugly bastard, he thought. He didn't know which disgusted him more, his tortured face or the bullshit patriotism of the 4th of July. Lila, his ex-wife, was having a party at the house Santiago had built when they had arrived in New Mexico in 1986. Their daughter Tara had flown in from Glasgow with old Scottish friends and wanted to see him. Tara asked on the telephone if he would help with the barbecue. She told him to stop being a jerk and come back home. He said yes and would arrive in the late afternoon. He meant to do that, but his thirst for alcohol increased with every mile he came closer to the broken marriage. It was 2 years since Leila had kicked him out. If he hadn't stopped at the bar, maybe he could have returned to his old family life while he was still sober. He preferred the odor of booze. Mr. Clean and stale ashtrays. He was at home with drunks. I look for the truth, Billy. It doesn't exist. Santiago slurred. Yada yada. Boredom flattened Billy's face. Santiago was drunk, but even with a numb brain, it was perfectly clear that running on alcohol did not cure the blues. His life had fallen apart. 10,000 miles of beer-soaked bars trailed the 2 years behind him. He had rolled along the wooden surfaces of bars like a bowling ball, bouncing into beer mugs and shot glasses until he was into the return gutter and spun back to the beginning of the game, an alcoholic hole full of pretend cowboys who trailed computer pathways from cosmopolitan congestion out to open Indian country. He was back in the same shit heap with the same stone faces, repeating the same beer barrel mantra. The beautiful dream is nothing but a nightmare, Santiago said. Yada yada. Billy rolled his eyes to fly-speck shapes on the stacked beer mugs lined up along the bottom of the bar mirror. Santiago's 50th birthday was 2 months away. Being 50 had become an obsession. The diagnosis from the VA changed everything. Every day was precious yet wasted. Being drunk only concentrated a growing paranoia to the memories of ghosts. Santiago felt he no longer existed. His mind floated up on the ceiling, looking back at the body down below. It was someone else who had lived his long life before. Someone else who had once had youth, romance, and adventure. Someone else who had seen death. Now death was looking at him. Life is fucking irony, Santiago mumbled. Page 3.